welcome to our Garden Tour 2022. Our first stop here is at Beth's house. She might look familiar because she is an associate at the garden center, so you may have come across her and she may have helped you with your plants. So we're at her home. Thank you, Beth, for having us here today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you guys have lived here for
21 years.
21 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you haven't gardened the whole time though.
No, I have not. When we first moved in, my son was about 2. So we had just standard plants here that they put when they built the house. Mainly just had some shrubs, 3 azalea bushes and a rhododendron, and mainly just did annual planting. Came in every year, planted some annuals, took them out in the fall. And then as my kids started to get older, I decided that I wanted to do something different, have some more perennials. I was a little tired of the constant change. And then I wanted to also, as I got to learn about the bees and the challenges and that all the pollinators were facing, I really wanted to focus on perennials that would be beneficial to the pollinators.
So we'll see a lot of the plants that she has chosen to grow are for pollinator-friendly plants. So, so we'll start with this first bed here. I know our landscape team helped you with this. When was that?
That was, I think, last year.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
It might have just been a year ago. And they, basically, you guys came in and added a lot of the big rocks that you'll see here, which are just wonderful. They just add such visual interest, and it just really kind of makes the bed pop, I think, with the different textures. And then you also added in some additional flowers, you know, kind of to help the pollinators. So a lot of like the gay feather and the nepeta, which I think is this one here, and some of the daisies that are up above. So yeah, it really kind of helped filled it out, and also taught me about the importance of different spaces, so that not everything is in the same space. For the, like, you want to have zones so that the pollinators can kind of browse from one to the other.
Under this big oak tree here that you said, you know, has grown, it hasn't always been this big.
When we first bought the house, the tree was definitely a lot smaller, and the whole entire bed was full sun, pretty much from morning until afternoon. And in the afternoon, we get the really hot late day afternoon sun. So that was a big consideration as I was making changes. And you know, what can tolerate that hot afternoon sun, like from 4 o'clock on. But I've noticed this year, as I've been looking to see what else I wanted to plant, that the tree has, as big as it is, there's now a lot more shade throughout the day, and it's like more dappled sunlight. So that's something that I'm gonna have to take into consideration as I try to add some new plants and fill in to see, you know, not necessarily full sun all the time.
Tell us about this here.
Oh, so our little fountain. It's important to have a water feature. You don't want it to be too deep. So I just took a bottom of a terracotta pot and added some large river rock and put that in there with some water so that they could have a little place to go. Ideally, I want to get a fountain in there. I had one before, but it was all, the solar panels were on the base of the fountain. So again, when you have a lot of shade, the fountain's not gonna work. So I wanna try and look for a new fountain that maybe has a separate solar panel feature that I can get the panel out into the sun, but still keep the fountain itself in the shade so that the water lasts longer.
Yeah, so that's a great takeaway tip. That's something useful for pollinator-friendly gardening, is to have a shallow dish of water, just something shallow that they can stop at in amongst your pollinator plants.
I would say some of my favorite pollinator plants, I love the echinacea and the coneflower. I just, the colors, and mine are all purple. There's just such a variety of colors, and they're just so striking. I like the butterfly weed, the milkweed rather, because it supports the monarchs, and the ability to maybe see the life cycle of a butterfly is just so cool. I did get to see that once, where I actually had, I always have caterpillars every year on my milkweed. But one year one of the caterpillars crawled up my siding and actually made its cocoon. And then I actually got to see it go from green, the chrysalis green, to clear, which I didn't realize it did. And I could see the butterfly inside the chrysalis, and then it actually came out. So like that was so exciting for me.
Yeah, that's awesome to see, for sure.
And I do like the bee balm as well. That's another one. It's just kind of a different looking one. And the bees, again, just really love it. Anything that the bees like, I like. So those are probably a couple of my favorite. And also there's lavender on the other side, which I just love the smell.
Bee balm's fragrant, and the lavender, and then there was a salvia down there that smells amazing. I think it's more of like a pineapple sage. It smells great. And then you mentioned frogs, and you also, do you just like frogs in general? Because you have some like really cute garden art pieces of frogs around.
Actually, when my son was younger, he was very into reptiles and frogs. So we found those and we just added them in, and I've never taken them out.
Oh, that's so cool. But you have a real frog that's been hanging out too.
Yeah, it's an American Eastern toad. So it kind of just hangs out in the flower bed, and every once in a while I'll see it, and it likes to bury itself in the mulch, which I didn't realize. I thought it was a chipmunk making the holes, but one day when I was out here doing some weeding, I almost stepped on the poor little thing, and then I saw it actually just kind of went from its hind legs and kind of just scooted and buried itself almost halfway into the mulch, I guess to keep cool, because those were some of the hot days we had.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to see it. This is a bee house, and we just actually got an old wood post that we had and just nailed it to the post. And it has little holes that the bees can go in and make their nest. This is the first time I've ever seen where it looks like we may have something that was nesting in here, because they actually filled one of the holes. I'll be curious to see kind of, and later on, what may come out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's like for mason bees or other bees that like to nest in wood. So that was a new addition last year. I always try to add something new.
So then you have a strawberry patch here.
We do, and the strawberry patch actually, before we moved here, we lived in Washington, and we had some strawberries at our old house. And when we moved, we didn't take any, but my aunt lives right next door, so she and her fiance actually took some of the plants out from our old house and brought them down and gave them to us. So again, I think this started with 4 plants. Probably had it for maybe 4 years now.
Oh wow.
And it just
really
kind of
filled it in.
Yeah, it really fills it in nice. It actually, it's kind of challenging sometimes because they want to move over that way towards the garden, which I don't know that I want them all in there. So I have to keep kind of taking them back. And this year I noticed they actually went down into the window well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so, but it's wonderful.
You
Nothing
get berries
better.
in the spring.
Yeah. Yep, get berries usually around the beginning of June, I'd say, and they're delicious. Like, you know, again, you don't realize how wonderful like a fresh picked berry tastes.
Yeah.
But we get out every day when they start to come in, because again, we're competing with the chipmunks and the birds.
Okay, so the vegetable garden is a more recent addition, right?
Vegetable garden is definitely recent. That actually started in 2020. So when everything was shut down with COVID, all of my kids were here, and it was Mason and Marcus and a friend, very good friend of the family, Marcus's friend Nathan. We were all here, and Marcus and Nathan said, "Hey, let's start a vegetable garden." And I was like, "Really?" And they said they would help. So this actually just used to be like a grass area. So we dug the grass up. And then we had not good soil, basically clay with maybe a layer of topsoil over it, a lot of clay. So the kids, young adults, they're not kids, they went in and we basically by hand added bumper crop and just by hand mixed it all in there and created this. My husband helped. He was the one that gave us the wood and kind of put the barrier together. So it was a big family project. And that was the first time. Prior to that, all I had ever done was tomatoes in pots. So I typically try to grow what we like to eat, and then every year I try and add one new thing.
Yeah. I love that it was their idea too, you know, that it came from your kids, and then it just became a group effort. This is a great use of your fence there too, to grow up the, is that cucumber?
Cucumber.
Yeah.
Actually this fence has been really helpful for that. Prior, like last year, I put the little tomatoes, and the same thing, because I typically get the indeterminate ones. So they were like, it came all the way out to this part of the fence. That's how big it grew.
So you have a couple things in place here to help with your gardening, with watering and the composting?
I do. So we added, I believe it was a year or two ago, a rain barrel, because I wanted to, you know, conserve water, not necessarily use the good drinking water that we have just to water the flowers. So we went and added a rain barrel. So it actually collects the water. Anytime that it rains, it comes off the roof and goes into the rain barrel. And it's nice because it actually has the little faucet right there that I can put my watering can to. And then any overflow actually just goes back down in. But it's like, especially when it's been hot lately, like this entire rain barrel will help me water the whole front bed.
Oh, wow.
So and I can even hook a hose up to it because I have a slate hill, and just take the hose and basically until it gets to this fill line here, and then I have to kind of tip it to get the rest of the water out.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, it's wonderful for that. You know, just kind of supplementing the rainwater when it comes. I have a compost bin in the back of the yard. We've had that for, gosh, probably 10 years or more. And it's been really nice because it's amazing how much less trash you have when you compost.
Okay.
So we put all of our, you know, veggie and fruits and anything like that, our peels out in here. And then I use newspaper, like shredded newspaper, for my dry ingredients for the most part. And we just turn it and mix it, and it just sits out here and makes us nice compost. And then I add that in anytime if I'm planting, like in the garden.
Yeah.
This winter I'm actually gonna take some and just, once everything comes out of the garden, put a bunch of it in there to try to really help amend the soil. So it's been a nice addition.
A lot of people have hillsides that are a challenge, and you said this is one of your biggest challenges of your property here. Tell us about your hillside. It's nice and filled in though.
It is. So our hillside, when we first bought the house, basically there was no fence, and it was all crown veg. That's what the builders put when they built the house. Now the trees were all there, which is one of the main reasons that we like this house, because I really like the trees. It just, you know, added some peacefulness to it. But the hill was all crown veg. So what my original goal was to have it be a wildflower area. But again, the soil's not that great. I tried putting some seeds down, but relying again on the rain and watering, it was a real challenge. And the crown veg just kind of kills everything out because it's, again, spreads so easily. So probably maybe 5 to 7 years ago, I'd say, probably 7 years ago, I took a couple of the black-eyed Susans that we had out front, and I bought a couple coneflowers, and so probably 7 plants I planted like in this area, just to see if we could get them to take. My goal was to basically take all of the inside fence and make it be pollinator-friendly plants. So with 7 plants, like probably 4 black-eyed Susans and 3 coneflowers, all of the black-eyed Susans that you see going over to the right, that is all just natural spread from the flowers. So we've tried to put some other things in there, but it's been a challenge because we don't do anything outside the fence, and so everything that's up there wants to just wind its way down. But it's something that I'm still working on, and I'd like to, you know, keep adding things that are strong enough to kind of hold their own, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah.
But still be pollinator friendly, because that's my goal. I was able to get one milkweed to take over on the right side, and that's done pretty well. It just kind of, I clear around it every spring just to make sure it has the space to grow.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you one more question, and it's more just of, you know, what does gardening do for you, and, you know, what do you love about it?
I will say I love the peacefulness that it brings me. I like to come out here. Sometimes I'll actually just sit on those like bigger steps there and smell the lavender, listen to the bees. It's a huge stress relief when you do that. Even weeding, and I know people will say weeding, but just being out here and hearing the birds and being it's very peaceful.
Yeah.
And I just also enjoy doing something new and trying, like when something grows, it just gives me such like a sense of accomplishment. Makes me happy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love, you know, to see what you've done here, the things that you've learned, all the hard work that you've put into it. It's just a beautiful space, and it's so nice to see what you've created that, you know, brings you joy, and also gives your family something to eat too. So,
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. I'm glad you were able to enjoy it and kind of, you know, see what we've done. So I'm proud of it. Thank you.